Hamlet. It's the third and final DLC for the original Don't Starve. It brought with it lots of amazing content. Pig cities, capitalism, manual labor, allergies, and whatever this is. But all of that, not important to us for this video. Because today we are going to see how fast I can beat Don't Starve's DLC, Hamlet. Now, wait a minute, you can't beat Reign of Giants or Shipwrecked, the first two DLCs. So how exactly can you beat Hamlet? Well, Hamlet took some inspiration from Don't Starve Together, and instead of seasonal bosses, you have 4 regular bosses that can only be fought under specific circumstances. The Queen Woomant, who resides at the end of the Mant colony's nest, the Pugalisk, who serves as the defender of the sacred and powerful Fountain of Youth, the Iron Hulk, who is an ancient death bot that must be assembled, much like the Shadow Pieces in Don't Starve Together, and finally the Ancient Herald, who only arrives when the end times come for the world of Hamlet. These 4 bosses are the only to exist in Hamlet, and all of them can be summoned whenever you want them to be. What does this mean exactly? Well, it means we can have an end goal. Of course, defeating every boss is just one of the end goals that you can give yourself in the world of Hamlet, but it is by far one of the hardest. So with that knowledge, what exactly am I going to do today? It's simple. I'm going to try to beat Don't Starve Hamlet as fast as possible. What day will we be on by the time the last boss is defeated? Will we even survive? Well, let's find out by loading into our modless, default Hamlet world with our favorite garage scientist, Wilson. Day 1 started like any ordinary Hamlet run. After getting roasted by Maximilian, we grab our trusty machete and get to chopping some grass, collecting twigs, and searching under some suspicious stones. You see, I had a game plan set and ready, so we know that there are 4 bosses to beat in Hamlet: the Queen Woomant, the Pugalisk, the Iron Hulk, and the Ancient Herald. But what would be the best order for us to beat them? Well, optimally, we would go for the Queen Woomant first because she's not only the easiest boss to defeat, but she also would drop the Royal Crown, which we can then trade to Queen Malfalfa to get a key and ultimately get the Executive Hammer, which means infinite resources as long as we don't mind breaking the law, which of course, we do not. Then we would go for the Pugalisk. You don't get much from the Pugalisk, but the Bone Shards and Magic Water would be great for later, and then we would move on to the Iron Hulk. The hardest battle in Hamlet, but the most rewarding, as it provides us with infused iron. This iron can be used to make the living artifact, which creates a suit around us that turns us into an invincible beast, which will make the fight with the Ancient Herald, who you can only really tank, a breeze. Seems simple, right? It would be, but we are playing Don't Starve. And when it comes to this game, there's always a catch. The catch is that we would only have 12 days to defeat the Pugalisk and the Iron Hulk. This is because once humid season starts, efficient outdoor combat becomes nearly impossible thanks to the worst and most oppressive mechanic in all of Don't Starve: the fog. There's an exception for the Ancient Herald, but we'll go over that when the time comes. Either way, we would have to somehow take out the Pugalisk and the Iron Hulk before day 12. And let's be honest, the Iron Hulk alone takes quite a while to set up without good map RNG, so my goal would be to start with the Pugalisk to ensure that we get one of the limited time bosses out of the way, and evolve from there. But before we can even think of fighting any bosses, we must ensure that we can survive and equip ourselves. So we spent the entirety of day 1 mapping out our spawn island and just overall preparing. Day 2 was here and we decided to begin exploring the jungle. During our expedition, we created a science machine, made a backpack, and some necessary tools, and found a Mant Hill and the Pugalisk ruins. Boom, that's 2 bosses already located. Not bad, but they weren't my target quite yet. I actually wanted to find the pig ruins so that we could find Palace City. There resides Queen Malfalfa, the only thing standing between us and infinite resources. But first we would need an offering, and with no Queen Woomant crown, we would need to improvise. Well, if RNG was good to us, we can actually find something called the Jeweled Truffle in the very same ruins that lead to Palace City. This artifact will also allow us to get the Executive Hammer. Great, so we spent today spelunking, right? Well, no. No, I had some pretty bad luck with finding the entrance. Luckily, we weren't totally useless though, as I was able to prepare ourselves an alchemy engine that I would save for when we managed to make it to Palace City. Day 3 started with us exploring, and as the daylight began to run out, I increasingly became worried that we wouldn't find the pig ruins in time. Remember, humid season was a looming threat, so we were on a pretty tight time restriction here. Thankfully, before dusk even arrived, I managed to find the Pig Ruins entrance, and from here we would have two tasks: find the Jeweled Truffle and the exit to Palace City, preferably in that same order. Good news, we found the exit. Bad news, no truffle. So we head back to check each and every room, and what do you know, not only is the truffle in the last room we could check, it's also behind what I like to call a death room. You see, Hamlet's ruins generate with certain rooms having certain patterns. You can get rooms with nothing in them, rooms with pillars, or even just mobs. But if you're particularly unlucky, like me, you can come across a room filled with traps with no way to go but through. Hence, the Death Room title. As without armor, you cannot survive a trip through this room. This was bad, and would set us back pretty far, but it was still manageable. My new game plan was to sell off our stash of trinkets, so we make our way to Palace City under the cover of darkness and foliage. On day 4, we make it to Palace City and make our first few sales. Selling artifacts for money and some petals, we managed to get a small fortune, but we had no jeweled truffle, which meant no executive hammer. Luckily, we did manage to buy a cutlass from the weapons shop and a pith hat from the hat shop, which will come in handy when the fog rolls in. On the outskirts of town, we set up our alchemy engine and then dig up a treasure chest with alright loot, before spending the rest of the day trying to get a log suit to deal with the death room in the ruins. Day 5 started with us plucking a peacock, grabbing some gold, and then armoring up to grab our prized jeweled truffle. Luckily, we make it through the death room without too much damage and swiftly grab the truffle before heading back towards the palace. Unfortunately, we wouldn't make it there until sunrise. Finally, on day 6, we had obtained the executive hammer. This nifty little thing would allow us to obtain infinite riches in the form of oinks, resources, and most importantly, lanterns. Finally, it was time to start preparing for our first boss. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time to get both the Pugilisk and the Iron Hulk down before humid season, so we had to pick one. And I wanted to focus on the Pugilisk, because this would allow us to get theoretically infinite healing and food via snakebone soup. And because Pugilisk is actually a fairly simple boss to defeat. Regardless, we spent the entirety of day 6 looting Palace City. Day 7 started with us getting chased out of Palace City by angry guards. I'm not sure why. I paid for this hammer fair and square. I'm gonna use this hammer. Either way, we leave the city and head back to the starting island, where we spend the rest of the day armoring up and preparing for the journey ahead of us by farming some necessary resources. Day 8 was here, and it would be the day we finally set off to fight the Pugilisk. But before we did that, all we had to do was just buy a little bit of coffee. No big deal, right? Okay, coffee bean 1. Very good. Anti-venom, we don't need that. Let's buy some green caps. And just drop them. Okay, blue caps. Gotta get lucky here. Come on, give me coffee. See, this is the RNG factor here. Alright, not good. Not good at all, everybody. This is not... Okay, great. Alright, we're getting very unlucky here. Okay, we're just getting incredibly unlucky. I'm just gonna buy both of these. Dude, we're actually the most unlucky people in the world. I've never been this unlucky before. Okay. Okay. I get it. I get it. What have I done? What have I done wrong, actually? Genuinely, what have I done wrong? Okay. Dude, What? Okay, wait. All of the anti-venom. I don't need anti-venom. I don't need anti-venom. Don't need anti-venom, dude. Nor do I need honey poultice. Actual best luck ever. You know what? Fine, it's healing. I don't care that much. Alright, fine. Whatever. Yeah, I think this game hates me. Not only did we waste so much time, but we also lost almost all of our money. Boy, do I love RNG. Now, we will have to rely on 2 coffee beans to give us the speed boost we need to deal with Phase 2 Pugilisk. If you don't know, Pugilisk has 2 phases: Attack Phase and Defense Phase. During the Attack Phase, Pugilisk is hyper-aggressive and will do everything to get as close to you as possible and do bashing damage and biting damage. Then, once Pugilisk has entered Phase 2, it will progressively become more defensive, utilizing hit and run tactics using its freezing stare. Phase 2 almost requires a speed boost if you want to be as efficient as possible. Otherwise, you are guaranteed to be frozen and take a few hits. Also, how exactly do I plan to fight Pugilisk anyway? Well, the Pugilisk fight is actually pretty weird. Tanking is an option, as it is with most bosses in the game. However, this is an awful idea against the Pugilisk, as it does a whopping 150 damage per bite. That's enough to one hit without armor, and will absolutely shred any armor you do have. Rather, the best method, and the one we will be using, is standing near the fountain. This causes the Pugilisk to circle us, as it can't actually get close to the Fountain of Youth. And then, when we see a chance to attack the vulnerable pink section, we attack. Rinse and repeat, and we should get ourselves a Pugilisk victory, easy peasy. Sounds good, right? Well, now we have to brave the Pugilisk ruins and actually find this Fountain of Youth. And luckily we do find the exit to the ruins before day 9 begins. Day 9 starts on Pugilisk Island. Here we would need to look for the Fountain of Youth. Unfortunately, Hamlet World Gen is far less predictable than Don't Starve Together's World Gen, so this was a completely luck-based endeavor. Luck that I would fail, as I spent almost the entire day searching for that stupid fountain. It wasn't all bad though, because near the end of the day I did manage to find the fountain, and now the fun part can begin. Our very first boss fight of this rush. Alright, let's do this. Oh, it's a full moon. Great, okay. Pugilisk time, everybody! We're gonna get frozen because we don't have the speed boost. That was good. That was a good hit. Yeah, there's nothing we can do because the speed boost. We don't have the speed boost. We can't outrun that unless we're like wicked fast with it. Nah, see, even when we do that, it just doesn't, we can't get away. It's okay, though. We've got a lot of armor. We've got a lot of healing. We got to use this for his defensive mode, though. All right, let's... Again, remember, I'm not going for... All right, he's on defensive mode already. He's on defensive mode already. I should have just tanked it. I should have just tanked it. I can take the damage. I can take the damage. I can't let him stay in defensive mode for too long. I need to bundle him up. There we go. And that, my friends, is Pugilisk down, day 10. And with that, not even halfway through day 10, Pugilisk was down. But now we only had 2 days until Humid Season basks us with its glorious fog mechanic. So I decide to head back and make preparations for the Queen Womant fight. Now, this fight actually takes place indoors, so the fog mechanic would not be a problem, thankfully. But you know what would be a problem? This right here. Alright, so to make bone soup, you do this. Hello? Hello? Monster meat? I didn't even get the bones back. Oh. Finished game, by the way. Okay, well, I guess we're not making crockpot food. That's lovely. Okay. Yeah, welcome to Hamlet, everyone. Part of the finished game that is Don't Starve. Seriously, though, I haven't been able to replicate this glitch, but it kind of cost me 7 entire monster meats and a whole stack of snake bones. So, hold on. Let's list out all the reasons why Hamlet hates Polarlotus real quick. Horrible shop RNG, horrible map RNG, horrible drool truffle RNG, And finally, my crockpot is actually a demon sent to devour all of my edibles. This should be called Can I Beat Don't Starve Hamlet with the Worst Luck, not a boss rush. Whatever, we had a job to do, so we had to just suck up the loss and prepare for the Womant. Day 11 was here, and despite all the setbacks, we actually were pretty much ready to fight the Queen Womant. No, I'm not kidding. You see, the Queen Womant is actually one of the easiest bosses in all of Don't Starve. And that's because you can very easily cheese her. How? Well, Queen Womant is a boss that doesn't actually attack you directly, like Phase 1 Toadstool or Crab King. Queen Womant is a summoner boss, relying purely on other things to deal damage to you rather than herself. The thing is, her summons, the Mant Guards, can very easily get stuck on the back of her throne, leading you to being able to defeat the Queen Womant by just holding F, or whatever your attack button may be. This will still lead to you taking big sanity damage due to the sonic attack she has, but it's really not too devastating unless you get really unlucky with nightmare spawns. With that knowledge, we grab a few lanterns from Swinesbury and make our way to the Mant Hill. A little tip for navigating the Mant Hills is you can actually hug the edges like this, and you will never aggro the Mants if you do that, as they are, territorial. The same can't be said about the Mant Guards near the Queen's Lair though, as they are instead totally aggressive. However, Mant Guards have something weird in their code that causes them to always walk to the middle of the room upon being loaded in. This means if you just hug the edges incredibly tightly, you can sometimes get by each room without aggro. But even if you do happen to get aggro, just run. It's not worth it to fight the guards as they are very tanky and are always not alone. Finally, we enter the Queen's Lair, and it's time for boss number 2. Okay, let's go to the other side of her. Still attacking. Alright, well, either way, we can run them around this way. Or we can just face tank. As long as the other one's alive, he won't. Yeah, if the other one's alive, we're good. That stops the music, that's so cool. I sure showed him. I sure showed him, Wilson says. Alright, let's end this. Come on. Any day now. There you go. Queen Womant was down. We were officially halfway done with this challenge. But the final 2 bosses, the Iron Hulk and the Ancient Herald, would require far more setup. And humid season was almost upon us, which would make the Iron Hulk much, much harder. So first, we should go for the Herald, right? Well, let's get out of this nest first, then we can talk game plan. On day 12, we managed to escape the nest, and unfortunately, not to my surprise, humid season was here. Now we had to deal with the awful fog mechanic, but it wasn't all bad because now we could begin our apocalypse prep. You may notice that in my inventory are some rotting eggs. Well, these are so that we can craft gunpowder, which will be necessary for finding the apocalypse dial within the Herald ruins, as it's always behind a suspicious crack in the wall, which can only be accessed by, you guessed it, blowing it up. But since we have to wait on the eggs anyway, I spend the rest of the day moving pieces of the Iron Hulk together to make that boss battle a little less prep heavy. On day 13, I craft up a gas mask and make some gunpowder. Finally, it's time to tackle the Herald. Now, traversing the poison rainforest during humid season is very, very dangerous. If a fog wave hits, I will be slowed to a crawl, and I can't take off the gas mask or I will take lots and lots of damage. So we wanted to be as quick as possible. And luckily, we do find the Herald ruins before the end of the day, and we get down into safety. Well, as safe as the ruins may be. Still better than the fog, though. Day 14 was here, and we would search for the exit to Herald Island. I'll use this time to actually talk about what we are doing now. So the Ancient Herald is a bit of a weird boss. It's technically the only seasonal boss of Hamlet, as it will only spawn periodically during the apocalypse. So our goal would be to find the calendar and activate the apocalypse so that we can fight the Herald. But how exactly? Well, the Ancient Herald is a bit of a funky boss. It's a hybrid summoner boss, much like Bee Queen, meaning it will utilize both minion summoning and actual attacks to take you down. The actual attack, however, isn't too scary, doing only 50 damage. Sure, this is a lot, but remember, armor stacks in Hamlet, so utilizing a chest armor and a head armor will nullify this damage pretty much completely. The danger comes in the summon attacks. The Ancient Herald has 4 different summons: Ghost Pigs, Nightmare Creatures, frogs, and meteors. And depending on the summons that the Herald uses will change your fighting strategy significantly. When it comes to fighting the Herald, it's actually best to just tank it. Like I said, the damage is incredibly low, so there's no fear of dying to the Herald itself if you're armored. If Ancient Spirits spawn, then simply keep tanking. They will hurt, but not enough to warrant running away. The Herald will even damage these spirits, so they're annoying but manageable. Then there's the Nightmare spawn. This is by far the worst spawn that the Herald can do in my experience. It can be up to 4 of them, and if you manage to get 4 Terror Beaks, then good luck. They do too much damage to be ignored and will chase you forever. The best way to handle this is to disengage the Herald and run as far away as possible before handling the Nightmares and coming back. Then we have the Meteor spawn. This is by far the best summon because it means that you can just continue to tank uninterrupted. Yes, if a meteor hits you, it will do lots of damage, but remember, if you're wearing both a chest and headpiece, you will be fine. And finally, the Frog summon. Now, many people and even the wiki itself states that this is the worst summon by far, but in my experience, it's actually a preferable summon. Yes, they will stunlock you and drain your inventory, but if you manage to de-aggro them, then they will be permanently asleep thanks to the Infinite Night of the Apocalypse, making them a simple case of run away for a second and then get right back to work. So yeah, that's basically how you defeat the Herald. But first, we have to start the Apocalypse, which requires a lot of RNG, unfortunately, of which I've had none this run. You see, we actually get pretty unlucky and don't find the ruins on day 14, but on day 15 we do. Remember how I said that RNG isn't on my side? Yeah, every suspicious crack I blew up was not the right one. Luckily, I brought extra rotten eggs, so all we needed to do was get some niter to refuel, and finally, after going insane thanks to a gnat swarm, on day 16 we found the calendar, activated the Apocalypse, and prepared to fight the Ancient Herald. There you are. Alright everybody, ladies and gentlemen, it's Herald time. Let's finish this. Okay, here comes the summon. What are we gonna get? Nothing? Meteors. Oh, it was frogs. That was a bit late. That was a bit late, don't you think? Yeah, that was the Ancient Herald, everyone. We got incredibly lucky though, and the summon appeared to be very glitched. Remember, Hamlet is a finished game after all, but I accepted the win. Defeating the Ancient Herald is actually amazing since you can create the Void Cloak, which is exactly like Bone Armor in Don't Starve Together, except with no cooldown, and it acts like a backpack. It's actually the best chest armor in the entire game without a doubt. But we wouldn't be making it as it requires Knight Armor, which would take time to create. Time that was oh so precious to us right now. So, unfortunately, no OP backpack for this run. We head back into the ruins to shut the Apocalypse off, and then begin to plot out a plan to tackle the Iron Hulk during humid season. Which, by the way, I forgot to mention it, but seasonal effects just kind of turn off during the Apocalypse, so that's why we didn't get fogged on during the battle. Unfortunately, it comes right back after we turn it off though. Why don't I fight the Hulk during the Apocalypse? Well, the Hulk actually can't be created during the Apocalypse, as the pieces are always active. Plus, dealing with the Hulk and Herald summons doesn't sound very fun at all, so, yeah. On our way back home, we actually had a pretty severe predicament. The fog had trapped us in the poison rainforest. Risking slow walking through the fog would be dangerous, and wearing the pith hat would cause us to take lethal amounts of damage. We had no choice but to wait out the storm. Luckily, before the end of day 18, the storm faded, and we made our way triumphantly home. Alright, now it was time to face the final boss on this list, the Iron Hulk. Now, the biggest problem with the Iron Hulk is actually the summon method. You need to find 5 different pieces, activate them, and bring them together. Once every piece has been attached, then the Iron Hulk will wake up and begin to demolish everything around itself. Doesn't seem so bad, right? Well, here's the issue. This isn't Don't Starve Together, so carrying items isn't a thing. We have to kite the Iron Hulk pieces all the way to wherever our build site is, and this isn't so bad for the head and the feet as they do a jumping attack that gives them a lot of distance and keeps their aggro, but the arms and torso have a laser attack that not only does a billion damage, but also makes them move far slower and constantly get unaggroed. Building the Iron Hulk takes us multiple days, so during this prep time, I will explain just what our plan here is. Well, remember how I said that humid season would be a problem? That fact remains true, unless I create a few Weevil mantles, which would take more time than I am really willing to spare, especially since it's going to take me a few days to actually begin this boss fight. We are going to have to fight with a massive slowdown penalty. Except, against the Iron Hulk, that is an absolutely awful idea. You see, the Iron Hulk is one of the most punishing bosses in the entire game, capable of using an attack that can do 600 damage in the matter of seconds. Oh yeah, also its default attack does 200 damage. Luckily for us, we wouldn't have to actually worry too much. Why? Well, this stupid giant robot took me all the way until Lush season began to actually get it built. So yeah, that problem's been dealt with. But what about the fight itself? The Iron Hulk battle is a little tricky. It only has 3000 health, trivial compared to most bosses, but since it's capable of outputting some insane DPS, it's definitely not something to scoff at. The plan would be to go into the fight with at least 3 log suits and as many football helmets as possible, and some coffee. Then, it's all a matter of getting as many hits as possible in, and then dodging whatever attack the Hulk throws at us. Of which, the Hulk has 6 potential attacks after a certain time interval, which is around every 3 seconds, depending on if the Hulk is in an animation or not. If you are within biting distance, the Hulk may choose to use its default melee attack. This isn't hard to dodge as it's, a standard melee attack, but it does do a whopping 200 damage. Enough to one-hit an armored Wilson and do 50 extra damage on top of that. But it will not always use this attack. Sometimes the Hulk may use what I call a landmine attack. Now, this attack is amazing because it allows us to ignore it and keep hitting the Hulk, since this attack will not do any damage to you as long as you stay calm and keep hitting the Hulk. Just remember that the landmines will do damage to you if you activate them, but they will only do 100 damage. So if it's between getting bitten and exploding, take the latter. The Iron Hulk has one more close range attack, what I like to call the Stomp. This attack involves the Hulk jumping up and slamming back down. This attack does 160 damage if you are too close. But that's not all. It will also generate a basalt prison around the player and the Hulk that must be mined before you can escape. This could lead to a massive problem as the Hulk does have one attack that has dangerous synergy with this one. To evade this attack depends. If you have coffee, you can very easily escape the Circle of Doom, trapping the Hulk inside and forcing them into their ranged targeting mode. But if you can't escape, then hug the walls, because eventually the Hulk will pull out a laser attack that will actually break the walls for you. Now on to the ranged attack. Despite being considered a ranged attack, the Iron Hulk can and will use this attack while you are within melee distance, if it feels like it. But it will also prioritize this attack if you are too far but the Hulk is still targeting you. A good example is right after a cage attack. If you escape in time, normally the Hulk will pull this attack out at you right away afterwards as you are both the main target and unreachable. This attack includes 3 lobs of energy, each doing 100 damage if they manage to hit you. Dodging this attack is as simple as just continuing to move. You will not be able to attack the Hulk during this attack as it fires faster than your attack animation, so attacking it will result in a guaranteed hit on you, even with a speed boost. It's best to just dodge and hope you get a better attack in the next 3 seconds. And finally, let's go ahead and cover the 2 laser attacks. Both of these attacks are equally devastating if they catch you off guard. First, let's start with the laser spin. Now, the laser spin attack involves the Hulk, you guessed it, spinning around while using a laser. This attack involves 2 ticks of potential 200 damage hits, giving you a potential of 400 damage. That's enough to defeat 2 2/3 of a Wilson instantly. Yeah, that's a lot of damage. So how this attack works is a bit weird. When the Hulk starts the animation of spinning, if you are within range, your character will glow red. If the laser manages to touch you while you are marked red, sometimes you will take a tick of damage. If you remain in the zone when the animation finishes, you will also take a tick of damage. I say sometimes because I've had moments where the laser clearly touches me while I'm marked, but I take no damage. It's probably a hitbox registration issue if I had to guess. If you see this attack coming, you have to run, as getting hit by the first tick of damage will almost guarantee that the second tick will happen since you get stunned. This attack seems almost unfair, right? Well, what if I told you that there was one even worse? This, ladies and gentlemen, is the teleport attack. Now, on the surface, it doesn't seem too bad, except for the fact that it has the highest damage in the game in consecutive hits. You see, on the surface, it doesn't look that bad. It does 200 damage. That's about the same as everything else on this list, and the boss teleports away afterwards. So it's not that bad, right? Well, that would be the case if it didn't do 200 damage per tick. Once the Hulk opens up the portal, if you are too close, prepare to be stun locked and take up to 600 damage. Yeah, this attack is by far the most devastating to unaware players, and is the sole reason why tanking this boss is considered impossible, as each tick of damage will expose you to breaking your armor, and then if it breaks, then GG, it's over. Luckily, the Hulk makes it very well known that it's about to execute this attack by creating a large red ball. So if you see that, run. The whole premise of the Iron Hulk is that it's an unpredictable glass cannon. I say glass cannon lightly as it still has 3000 health, which again isn't anything to scoff at, but if we compare it to some of the other bosses or literally any boss in Don't Starve Together, then it's basically a baby. But it's the unpredictability that makes this fight both fun and hard. If the Hulk decides to hit you with a cage attack and then a double laser, it could be over for you just like that. But enough about talking about the boss, let's actually see if we can manage to beat it. Alright. Let's play this game. My backpack's on fire. That's mine. We can hit him during this. Okay. Not worth. Gonna avoid that entirely. Alright, come on. Hit me with it. That's that! That's that! That is that! And just like that, the Iron Hulk had been defeated. The challenge completed. I had defeated every single boss of Don't Starve Hamlet as Wilson by day 25. That's before the end of the first Hamlet year. And honestly, even though it was no world record, I was very proud of myself, and I hope this video convinced some of you to give this great DLC a shot. It's genuinely such a fun DLC, and playing it as fast-paced as this was fun, but you don't have to. There's a billion things to do in Hamlet, and things that I may turn into challenges in the future. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new today. Thank you so much to my channel members in the description. You guys are so genuinely awesome for keeping videos like these possible, which are massive. This has been Polarlotus, and you should check out this video next, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.